The crispy Diet Coke is flat now. So podcast magic ruined. We have been sitting here since the beginning of part 1.
I mostly threw my coffee. I have eaten 2 slices of pizza in that time.
Yeah. We joined a new SLT opened near us. So we're doing like a founders membership.
Oh, you told me about this. I don't know what SLT is.
It's like Legree.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like Pilates. It's
Okay.
like the SLT stands for strength and length and tone. And everyone who's listening to this probably knows at this point we are runners. And nothing has made it so obvious that every single muscle in and around my pelvic girdle is really, really weak.
I was actually going to say you look like you've been lifting. Like your arms look great today.
Because I've been holding a plank for 45 minutes in this fucking class.
I mean, if it works, it works.
I'm dying. Yeah. I also have a stress rash.
I was wondering what that was. I didn't want to bring it up, but like, are you okay?
I'm stressed. So.
I'm stressed, man. I saw that. I was like, oh, what the fuck is on your arm?
I know. And I've not had eczema, and it also doesn't look like eczema. Maybe it's eczema. I don't know.
I've had eczema since Hurricane Sandy.
I
distinctly remember. I don't know. I don't know if it was cause or effect, but I remember Hurricane Sandy. I looked down on my hands. I was like, oh, what's that? And it's been on and off ever since. And when I worked in kitchens, it was fucking terrible. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, my hands were just wet all day and they would like burn, and it was tough.
Oh yeah. And you're surrounded by inflammatories all the time.
Yeah, I was literally like cooking over fire all day. And Derek literally is like, your hands are so much nicer now. Like literally he was just like, your hands look like old lady hands, and now they're so much better.
Old lady hands.
No, they did. They were like withered, and man, it was not good times.
I guess if you were like if they were constantly wet and pruned, and then you like didn't have time to like moisturize them between them.
No one's moisturizing in a kitchen, Ronnie.
I mean, I am glad for that for my own food purposes, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Abby.
I'm Ronnie.
And this is Dragons in the Details, where we pick apart our favorite fantasy series over the course of an undetermined number of episodes. This is not our last episode, but probably our last deep dive episode for Onyx Storm. So thank you guys for coming with us on this journey. If you've lasted this long, it's been very fun for us. I hope it's been fun for you. This is kind of our magnum opus episode. This is part 2 of the End of Onyx Storm. I'm calling this parentheses Violet's version. Last episode was Xaden's version. Not because we're actually only talking about the things that have to do with them, but this is the POV chapter. So last time we talked about chapter 65. This time we're talking about chapter 66. So this is the End of Onyx Storm, part 2, Violet's version. Disclaimer. Oh, sorry. This season we will be focused on the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. I think you've probably figured that out by now. Disclaimer. These episodes will contain spoilers up through Onyx Storm. If you've not finished Onyx Storm, save this and come back later. We'll still be here. This podcast will be here forever. I know the audiobook came out a couple weeks ago, so I think some people are still working their way through that. Some people are picking up these series for the first time, and we're very happy about that. Welcome. We love to have you.
Welcome.
Because of the contents of these books, these are spicy books. This is a rated R podcast. We also curse like sailors sometimes. We are not very ladylike, and we will not apologize for it.
Don't listen to it with your kids.
Sorry, yeah, don't listen to it with your kids. Thanks for keeping me in check, Ron. All right. Each week we dive into a specific topic in depth. We've already talked about it. This is going to cover the End of Onyx Storm. The true End of Onyx Storm. The last chapter of Onyx Storm is what we are focusing on here. Obviously, we're going to pick different pieces from different parts of the story, but we are focusing on the events of the last chapter of Onyx Storm, which I read and I literally texted Ronnie. Normally, these episodes are 5 questions. I texted you, I think, 12 questions. I said, these are all my questions.
Yeah.
And now we're answering them, or we're at least talking about them. We come with receipts. We have quotes to back up everything, any theories, at least if we've prepared them. If we come up with theories on the fly, sometimes we don't, but we try to find quotes for that. Our theories are based on something. You don't have to agree with them, but they are usually based on something real. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we're on announcements. Do we have any announcements, Ron?
Next season.
Same announcements. Yes.
Next season is ACOTAR.
Next season we're doing ACOTAR.
Woo!
We're excited about it. It's going to be a good time.
It's funny because I was just listening to, and I saved it because I've never actually listened to this podcast before, but I liked their intro, and I was like, they were about to talk about Onyx Storm, and I was like, I want to do these episodes first before I listen to anybody else's Onyx Storm's ending theories. But they were just wrapping Sarah J. Maas and about to get into Empyrean, and they were like, I don't know, like there was so much to talk about and everyone had read them and like getting into the Empyrean series, like I don't know how different it's going to be. And I'm like, oh my God, I have those fears.
I'm
because
scared.
People are definitely like in on the Empyrean world who listen to us. And I'm a little bit nervous on what's going to happen when we switch to Akatar. So stick with us, guys. It'll be fun, I promise.
Yeah, like I obviously when we were reading Onyx Storm, I was like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? What is this? I have so many questions. I feel like I have fewer questions with Akatar, but I also feel like the questions are there.
Yeah.
Like Amren and more. What the fuck is up with them? What's going on there? You know?
Yeah.
So it's just that it's not as much the focus. I feel like the world building is not as much the focus, even though people are like, Sarah J. Maas does such a good job with world building. But I would argue Rebecca Yarros has her beat a bit. But that can be a season 2 discussion.
Yeah. I also think like some of the really off the wall stuff does cross over series. So we're going to have to, I'm going to personally, I think, have a hard time keeping it to Akatar, but I will.
Yeah, well, we have promised our listeners that we're not going to spoil anything for the other series, but we might have segments at the end of each episode that's like how this ties into the larger universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll make it so that I hate when series get spoiled for me, so we will make sure that we're not doing that for any of you, but also I would just encourage you to read all of her books. They're all really great. I am in the middle of Throne of Glass right now and really enjoying it. So,
and I think as we build on, like as we move on to the next series, like we'll include spoilers for the prior one that we've already covered.
Yeah.
I think. So
yeah, I'm not going to
we'll
expect
eventually get to all the cross universe theories that anyone who has read the Massverse like does know and love or wants to hear. So
I mean,
we'll get there.
It's almost a spoiler to say that there's a Massverse at all because I didn't know that at first. Like,
I don't think that's that much of a spoiler.
All right,
I'm
well,
sorry if I spoiled it for anyone. You can just draw parallels between the worlds. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Other shout out, we're on Discord now, Dragons in the Details pod server. We have a lot of great conversations going on there. People are really great at sharing their theories. It's kind of a place for all of you guys to listen and to talk. If you don't have friends who want to talk to you about this series for hours on end the way that we do, then it's a place for you. And we have a space for off-topic things too. So if you don't want to talk about Empyrean, that's also fine. And if you just want to talk to other people, we have space for that too. And it's really great and it's really lovely and it's quickly becoming my favorite place on the internet. All right, that's announcements, corrections, omissions, social media shout-outs. Did you have one, Ron?
I do. I have two. One is short, one is long. And the first is a social media shout-out. We recently posted a clip from an episode talking about the Battle of Suniva and how that was kind of one of the most obvious signs of Venin wanting daggers. And someone left a comment that really was thought-provoking for me. So we've gone back and forth a lot on Melgren and whether he's good, whether he's bad, whether he's Venin. I think we both sit in the camp of we don't think that he's Venin. And I honestly, up until this point, have kind of been in the camp of, well, if he's not Venin, he's like probably the like typical Machiavellian Navarian who's like trying to preserve their own greater good. And I didn't really see that much nefarious in him. But somebody pointed out that Melgren was the one who sent the missive to Suniva saying, we're going to send you these riders.
I pointed this out to you when you brought this theory up. I said, and it was Melgren who sent them.
Well, yes, but the next piece.
Okay, sorry.
Sent them to Suniva. And someone pointed out that they probably weren't marked ones. So Melgren probably knew what was going to happen in Suniva. So what is he after here? Like, that battle resulted in Queen Mariah's death. So did he know?
Okay, keep going.
Did he know that Mariah was going to die? Is he pulling after some greater power play here? Like, is Melgren bad?
I'm going to talk about this in this episode.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah.
More to come there. Yeah.
That's why I pointed it out. Great. And then the second is more of an omission, but it stemmed from social media where we had a lot of discourse about Brennan and Naolin and like what actually happened there and people thinking that siphons were connected to gray marks. So I just want to clarify something pretty important about Brennan and Naolin that I don't think we've clarified in our episodes because you and I both view it as like really obvious, but I just want to say it as clearly as possible because I do think it's worded confusingly and needs to be pieced together so that everybody understands. When Venin drain, they leave gray marks. We have two instances in which we see someone partially drained, some random infantry cadet with a gray handprint on his neck where a Venin touched him, and then on Dane when he started being drained on his arm. We also know that Brennan has a rune-shaped scar on his palm. It is not known how he got it, but it was heavily implied that it was related to Naolin saving him. Due to the fact that it's connected to Naolin, you could potentially suspect that siphons also leave marks. However, we are specifically told that this is not the case when Sloane siphons from Dane into Brennan to save Mira, and Violet notes, weird, there's no mark on either of them. This is her and us realizing that gray marks have nothing to do with siphons and everything to do with Venin.
Yeah, and I think what's also interesting is that Violet does not have any gray marks from when she faced off Jack on the map, which also means to me that was not a Venin thing.
That was not being drained. No, that's all.
All right. I have a wonderful social media message from our listener, Jess. Jess is the same one who gave us the awesome Venom MLM theory that we talked about in Dreams. And this actually is related to Dreams. She was like, oh, did you guys talk about this in your Dreams deep dive? And I was like, what are you talking about? No, I completely missed this. So she went back and she was like, no, look, this is happening. And she literally DM'd me this morning. The timing for this was perfect. In Iron Flame, chapter 52, Violet has a dream. She wakes up. She's scared. She talks to Tairn. This is where Tairn says, if you don't like a dream, if a dream upsets you, leave it. And then she curls up next to Xaden and she goes back to sleep. Jess's question for me was, what is Xaden doing there? Because in chapter 51, he is gone. He has gone to Drathis for a week. So all of this happens in 52. Chapter 51, Xaden has gone to Drathis for a week. Chapter 52, Violet realizes, maybe it's chapter 51. Violet realizes how to raise the wards, but she realizes that with raising the wards, the flyers aren't going to be able to channel anymore. So they go to Rhiannon's house to talk to the flyers to say, do you want us to raise the wards or do you want us to wait? And they're like, how quickly do we need to make a decision? When are you going to tell leadership? Violet says, I have to tell Xaden the moment he gets back or I am lying to him, but I will give you until then, right? So the flyers are like, okay, great, we'll think about it. They leave. The next scene, Violet has this dream. She wakes up. She says, she wakes up and is scared, so she reaches out to Tairn, and then she curls her body around Xaden's, and he pulls her back. So he's there. He is there. This is the same day. He is there. He is supposed to be in Drathis. The next chapter, and an important piece of this is in chapter 51, Violet and Dane are talking. And Dane says to Violet, Dane makes a comment that the way that Xaden has proposed organizing the squad around structuring the units by strength instead of, I don't know what they were doing, by signets is brilliant. He says that. So he's like, tell him I think it's brilliant. And that's when Violet says, oh, he's away in Drathis. Chapter 52, 6 days later, 6 days have passed. And Tairn says the riot from Drathis is returning. And the first thing Violet says to Xaden is, oh, I'm guessing the new unit structure has worked out, right? So we have Xaden is gone for a week. Yeah. Violet has a dream. Violet wakes up and curls around Xaden. And then Xaden is back 6 days later. They have clearly not talked because the first thing she says to him is about the units, right? Yeah. How was he there? Was this just an editing error? Like, what the fuck was that? Yeah. How was Xaden in her bed when he was supposed to be in Drathis? Do you know what I'm about to say? Because I owe Xaden a huge fucking apology, is what I'm about to say.
I thought it was going to be related to the dreamwalking signet.
I don't think so.
You think it's Garrick?
I think it's Garrick. Because Violet says, when she's trying to figure out Xaden's second signet, she says, are you a distance wielder? I've only read about 2 riders in all of history who could cross hundreds of miles on a single step. There hasn't been a distance wielder in centuries. And don't you think if I was one, I would have spent every night in your bed? He shakes his head. And I, at the time, said, well, Xaden, your best friend is a distance wielder. Why aren't you spending every night in Xaden's bed? And I was wrong. And he is sneaking into Violet's bed every night, I think, is what's happening here. And I just think that's so sweet and so precious.
That would also explain how she's had these dreams of his when he's so far away. But, like, why wouldn't he admit to that? Didn't she know at this point?
I don't think it's every night. But I do think there's some nights where Xaden is sneaking Garrick into Violet's bed.
I thought you were going to go to a place where dreamwalking...
Oh, sorry, Garrick is sneaking Xaden into Violet's bed. You get it.
Where dreamwalking drove physical travel, which we've also gotten in our comment sections, and that is also why I noted the before and after of every single dream in our dream deep dive to figure out, like, where people were. But I did not think to read further and derive from that, like, the next pieces that he was in her bed.
I don't know. Like, he says, I would have spent every night in your bed. And then there's this random thing where he's in her bed and he's not supposed to be. And they clearly haven't spoken, right? So it's like Violet goes to sleep. Garrick sneaks in Xaden. Garrick either leaves or stays, I don't know. And then the next morning sneaks him out so they can sleep together. And this is Iron Flame, right? So Xaden hasn't turned yet. So like Garrick has no qualms about doing this. I just think it's really sweet. I just think it's really sweet and adds a layer
if it's
to
an Iron
it.
Flame, it's really cute, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, like, Garrick, we really don't know. And so then it makes complete sense that, like, we have no idea that Garrick is
Yeah,
just the other
exactly.
at that point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
yes.
cute.
So thank you, Jess. This was great. I really, really love this.
Yeah. And now we don't have to be pissed off at Xaden for
now,
not bullying Garrick into taking him home.
Literally made a rule. Literally made a reel about Xaden not sleeping in Violet's bed every night. And he is. So sorry, Xaden. Sorry. You're still the best. You're still my number one.
We love you.
All right. What did you do after you read the last line of this book?
I guess I accidentally talked about this in our last episode. I just stared at the ceiling.
I texted you. I said, what the fuck?
I couldn't do that yet. So I will say, like, I was the receiver of just about everybody I know's text after they finished that book because I was the one who was done with it. But
I
yeah,
will say I have been the receiver of 2 texts of other people who have finished this book, and they have both said, I don't understand what happened. And I think that's fair.
Also fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember my favorite text was from one of my friends that we both know that was like, TF was that? I thought this was a trilogy, which is still the funniest Onyx Storm ending reaction out of everybody that I've heard from. So imagine thinking this was a trilogy and reading that last line.
So friend of the pod, Maeve, told me, I didn't realize this, that it was supposed to be a trilogy. And then I didn't realize that. I didn't realize
originally.
Yeah.
When Fourth Wing was written, it was intended to be a trilogy.
That explains why Fourth Wing is 1 year.
Yeah.
And then other 2 are 6 months.
Right.
Yep. Cool.
So.
All right. What did we do when we finished this book? We texted our friends or we stared at the ceiling catatonic.
Indeed.
I actually remember I finished it at my parents' house and I had like disappeared like 3 hours earlier, been like, I'm going to bed. And then it was midnight. And I walked out and my mom stays up late. And my mom was like, what the fuck are you still doing awake? And I was like, I can't sleep. I have to tell you about this.
I've just been emotionally devastated by pages or words on a page.
Yeah.
Tough.
All right.
Okay, let's deep dive.
All right. So let's set the scene for chapter 66. Overview of chapter. That's what my notes say. All right. Violet wakes up in the gravel of Riorson House. So she's in front of Riorson House. She wakes up. Andarna is there and says, I will not let them burn you. That's what Andarna says. Brennan asks her if she's all right, and his eyes bulge when he looks her over for injury. We then find out it's 3 a.m. We don't find out yet that she's been missing for 12 hours, but we find out it's 3 a.m. An officer named Riorson also gives Violet a strange look, and Brennan says it's fine. We find out 4 riders and their dragons are dead. 3 elders were murdered in the valley. We don't know which valley, but 3 elders were murdered in the valley. 4 riders are missing. 6 eggs are missing from the hatching grounds, but they're double checking. So it might not be 6 eggs. I know we all assume it's 6 eggs, but Rebecca did leave this in here that they're checking.
Yep.
Violet tries to reach down the bond to Tairn, finds she can't reach him. Andarna says he needs a cycle of rest to recover. Imogen asks where Lieutenant Tavis is. We find out he is one of the missing riders. Brennan sees the ring on Violet's finger and sees a piece of paper in her pocket. He takes it out of her pocket and he reads it. He says it is an official blessing of her legal binding marriage to Xaden by the head priestess of Dune's temple. To Xaden, not to Bodhi, to Xaden. There's a note on the outside of the parchment that says, don't look for me, it's yours now. Violet finds out Imogen has wiped her memories from the last 12 hours because she asked her to. Anything important I missed in there? That was a pretty quick recap.
I mean, Brennan does ask Violet if she knows where Xaden is. So we get pretty significant hints that, like, people need to know where Xaden is. People know what happened. People know that it was Xaden.
Yeah.
What happened that we think was Xaden? Don't know. Like, we're going to talk about that more. She tries to feel for his bond, but it's, quote, gone. And then she kind of tries to talk herself out of panicking. And yeah.
Oh, yeah, I skipped that entire part. How did I do that? All right, I have a couple more things that I want to talk about. These are things that happened earlier, but I think they're very important for setting the stage of what we're going to talk about in this chapter. Number 1, most important thing, Xaden can no longer go into Orisha. right? So we talked about this last episode, but Xaden at one point when he is releasing his shadows onto Drathus, he says he stops at the magic that burns and pulls back. That magic is going up the cliffs of Draelor. So that is the Orishan wards. Yep. Assuming they have extended the wards to Drathus, he also can't be in Drathus anymore. But we know for sure that Xaden cannot be in Orisha anymore. So anything that happens in this chapter in Orisha, Xaden did not do. Xaden did not do it. And we also know, I know that like Xaden's kind of okay in the Basgiath wards, so like why not the Orishan wards? We know that Theophany and the other Venin flee when the Orishan wards go up. So we can, and we talked about this again a little last episode, I think we can assume that the Orishan wards work in a way that the Basgiath wards don't work, because perhaps the Basgiath wards have been tampered with by Panchak, by Atos, by any number of Venin who have infiltrated Basgiath. And we know that they also did something to the wards at the beginning of Onyx Storm, and we don't know what that was.
Quick note on that. I think I agree with all of it. I think it's channeling that burns within the wards, because the Griffin flyers can exist within the wards, or think they can exist within the wards, they just can't channel. So I don't know for sure that the Venin cannot be in them, period.
Well, that's what I thought, but Theophany and the other Venin literally flee. It's not like they're like, okay, we're gonna...
They would get immediately, like if they had no power, they would just get stabbed, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think he can be within the wards anymore. I think he's not, he can't go in, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I definitely do not know. I just think there is a possibility that they can just be in the wards, but they cannot channel, in which case they cannot be there for very long, and they would be immediately fucked if they were.
Right.
So, yeah.
A lot of my theories have to do with the idea of Xaden not being able to be in the wards, but we'll see.
Okay.
Other important things to keep in mind in Fourth Wing in Samara, when they are play acting battle brief, and kind of whenever they're play acting battle brief, the most important piece of strategy are signets. So I think it's really important to keep in mind everyone's signet, not necessarily their personal relationship, but think of what people can do, think of what they can't do, think of how that signet might help with whatever scenario we're in.
Ominous. No. Okay.
Well, I'm just framing it that that's how I thought of it, I guess. All right. Anything else you want to keep in mind, you want to talk about before we dive in?
Nope. I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Ronnie, how did she get to Riorson House?
Okay. So Violet wakes up in Riorson House, or in the courtyard in front of Riorson House, which makes it hard to believe for me that she flew, but not impossible. However, what does make it kind of impossible is that Tairn was in a cycle of rest when she woke up. So Tairn is out of commission when she's there. Andarna has a messed up wing and cannot fly her. And so that leaves, like, how else can we move long distances over time without dragons? One, someone else's dragon carries her, which they really don't like to do, but we've seen it happen. Flyers carrying them, which, again, we've seen it happen. Or Garrick. However, we have talked at length in our last episode, go listen to it, about the possibility of Garrick being Venin at this point. I think this is one, a potential case for him not being Venin, but two, also a potential case for Imogen to have been involved. And the reason I think that is because, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there are 5 missing riders, and when Brennan sees Violet, he says 4, which means that Imogen does not count against that missing rider count. So Imogen has been around with them, but she's with Violet in the courtyard, and we don't hear about her like running down with Brennan or anything. So did Imogen and Glaine play a role in getting Violet from wherever she was, potentially beyond the wards, to Riorson House? I think it's possible.
No, I have Glaine on here. I think he's the most likely answer. It can't be Garrick either way, because either he is exhausted from the battle or he is Venin and cannot distance wield within the wards anymore. So Garrick is out. Andarna, Tan are out. I think Glaine is the most likely answer. And I think you're right about Imogen. I think what you're saying is that Imogen was in Orisha for the last 12 hours and does not know what happened.
She was not there. She wasn't away with Violet. She was not missing.
She was missing.
In Orisha with Violet when she woke up.
Right. Because
to me, that's like she had to have played a role in getting Violet to where she was at that point, or at least knew how she got there.
But she can't really have known what happened, because otherwise there's no point in erasing Violet's memory if Imogen knows what's going on, right? Like, that's my thinking. So I agree. I think it was most likely Glaine. That's what I
Yeah.
wrote. And we also got the Imogen POV chapter. So like we know that she had a large role to play here. Yeah. All right, cool. We're in agreement.
I did have so I agree with you that Garrick is probably Venin if he got her there. If he got her like close to there, right? Because if he wasn't Venin, then he was drained. I also have Sloane question mark. Like, is Sloane among the missing? Could she have helped with siphoning from somebody else who had power stores? I don't know.
Okay, so I think there's something we're overlooking here,
Mhm.
which is Naolin, right? So Garrick could have gotten his power
Totally.
back without draining because Naolin
Totally.
could have given him power.
Yeah.
And you can drain siphon from yourself. But then that also raises the question of like, okay, well, what about the rune shaped scar in Brennan's hand? But if Naolin is the siphon that is the venin that they're working with, then he can give Garrick power.
Yeah. And my sub bullet to that, I had Sloane / siphon. Sub bullet. Side note: what happens if you siphon from an Irid?
I don't know.
Like, that's like endless power. So like my line of questioning was Garrick could have gotten some power back from a siphon. Who could that siphon have channeled from that would have had some power reserves left? Yes, somebody without a combat signet like Dane or somebody else, but also they can siphon from dragons, other sources. They can siphon from anything.
Well, and they can siphon from themselves. What Dane says to Sloane
is you can take your
So
take your own
Naolin could have just given him his own power, but that would be corrupt magic in theory. There's implications there. I like the idea of it being Andarna. I like that. And then Garrick could have gotten her to Riorson House because actually this might be my favorite thing. I think that makes more sense. I don't know.
Okay, so let's recap it. Maybe Garrick isn't Venin. Maybe he did have enough power to get Violet back to Riorson House, not being Venin because siphons exist.
Because Naolin is secretly working with them and is a siphon, or Sloane. Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Did you have anything else on how she got to... Well, no. Yeah, you had the same. Okay.
No. All right.
Next question.
What is the shape that moves
Okay.
in the shadows? Because a lot of people think this is Xaden.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want me to go? All right. It's not Xaden. As previously mentioned, it's not Xaden.
Yeah.
He cannot wield within the ward, so it's not Xaden. I really think it's just Andarna.
Yeah. Same.
I think it's Andarna and she's blending in. No one acknowledges Andarna during this chapter. No one says, oh, Andarna's back, right? Yeah. No one says anything to Violet about it. So I think it's Andarna, but I think she's hiding.
Yeah.
And I think that's a question. I think that's an interesting question. Why is Andarna hiding? Why doesn't she want people to know that she's back? I also think this is interesting again because we've talked about how there are parallels between the way that Andarna and Xaden are talked about, like doing the wrong thing for the right reason. I don't remember the exact quotes. I think we talked about in the Xaden deep dive, but like Leothan says, you've done a lot of bad things, but for the right reason, and that's commendable. And the priestess on Unbriel says to Asher, like she will reach for power, the wrong power for the right reasons, which is of course what Xaden ends up doing. And there's always that parallel between Xaden and Andarna and what they'll do for Violet.
Yep.
And I think the idea that this is shadows and it's Andarna is again creating this interesting link. And we've talked about the bonds between, we've talked about Irids making, breaking, and shaping bonds, right? So I am wondering, and this is kind of precog, kind of out there, but like, did Andarna create a bond between herself and Xaden?
Yeah.
That could go over distances, right?
Yeah.
Because she can shape them. So like, does that bond exist now, even if the mating bond between Tairn and Sigale is broken? I don't know that I mean, fine, maybe it is. I don't know. But that's kind of maybe if we took this one step further, maybe that's what's happening. I'm not totally sure. I just think it's, again, this parallel between Xaden and Andarna that we've gotten a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah. My first note on this is just Andarna speaks directly after this. Like, I think it's probably just Andarna. Yeah. I think it cannot be Xaden. Even if Venin can't enter the vicinity of the wards, he can't use shadows. So I don't think that this is Xaden shadows. I had, like, could it be Bodhi? We have a theory, maybe, I have a theory, maybe, that his signet has to do with, like, concealing himself or just becoming indetectable. Like, could it be Bodhi? Maybe.
Not if he's a Venin.
Not if he's a Venin. But we're now operating under the assumption that both Garrick and Bodhi are Venin.
I don't think Garrick's a Venin. I do not think Garrick's a Venin. I think Bodhi is the only Venin. I don't think Garrick's a Venin.
I think Garrick is with them.
I think Garrick's with them.
Yeah.
Garrick's definitely with them, but I don't think Garrick's a Venin.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's Andarna. No other notes. Okay.
All right. Why do Brennan's eyes bulge when they see Violet? All right. So I went through and I was like, all right, why do people's eyes bulge in this series? What is the reason for eyes bulging? So they bulge when they're scared. So there's a moment where Violet attacks Riddick in one of the earlier books because she's like all paranoid about everything. And Riddick's eyes bulge. And he's like, oh, calm down. It's just me. Like he grabs her shoulder. His eyes bulge. When they're dying, people's eyes bulge. So they'll like slit people's throats and they're like, oh, their eyes bulge. That's clearly not happening here. When they're embarrassed, so Kat's eyes bulge when Violet says, thanks for teaching Xaden that trick with his fingers. When they learn something new, so Violet with the conduit, Mira with Xaden being Brennan, both of those times their eyes are described as bulging. And then when they see something they're not expecting to see. So Lilith, when she sees Brennan, her eyes bulge. I think there's a point where Atos sees Dane, where he's like maybe in Arisha, where he's not expecting to see him, and his eyes bulge. So I think it's one of the last two. Like, I mean, it's something about her appearance, right? So like they're seeing, Brennan is seeing something he's not expecting to see on Violet. I like the theory that her hair is fully silver now, and that she's dedicated to Dune. If her hair is fully silver, and for other reasons, this would imply to me that they went to Unreal to get married. And they did not stay in Arisha, right? Because we know that the priestess in Arisha says, oh, do you dye your hair with like the lie and the fruit of the flower or something? And she was like, no. And she's like, oh, you have traveled far to see us then. So if her hair is fully silver, I think that means that they got married in Unreal, which is interesting for a lot of reasons. We also know the high priestess in Unreal says to Violet, I still see us among your potential paths. Should you decide to take it, Dune will accept you. It is not too late to choose her. So I think this could be Violet accepting that path. And Arik could have potentially also kind of pushed her on that path because we know that he's been in communication with the priestess in Unreal. And Unreal or Umbriel? Yeah? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of like, why would Violet have fully dedicated herself to Dune? She's clearly already touched by Dune. So what is the benefit of fully dedicating herself? What she says to Theophany was, as a high priestess, you would have had immeasurable power on the Isle. How is it still not enough? So I think there's two things, right? One is more power. But I think the second thing here is that Violet will now definitely have power where there is no magic, right? That's what this is implying to me. You would have immeasurable power on the Isle. There's no magic on Unreal. We've been obviously kind of pointed in that direction with the lightning strike. But like, I think what this means is that Violet will have power where there is no magic. So the Barrens, the Isles, all fair game. So she could potentially get the Venin somewhere where they are powerless, but she has the power of Dune on her side.
So she would do that if Andarna did not already serve that need for her. So you don't believe that Andarna serves that need?
I'm not totally sure I believe that this is what has happened, but I don't want to get to it yet. I'm just talking through this is like a popular theory, and this is what could be happening.
Okay.
Yeah. But like maybe Andarna can give her, maybe Dune can give her more power, or maybe Dune can give her, as we've talked about Dune current Theophany, Dune can give her the power to actually like smite the Venin, so to speak.
Yeah. Or, I mean, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and then we get that quote, we get this quote twice in Onyx Storm in the same chapter. Only those touched by the gods should wield their wrath, right? So if you're just touched and you can wield their wrath, what can you do when you're dedicated? Like, what is the limits of this power? Again, I think this is possible. I like it. I have another theory that I think is more fun that we'll get to later. I think the other options here for what could be different about her, she could have a forehead tattoo like Theophany did, right? So like she could just be a full-on priestess, but I don't really know what the implications of that are, and that might not be great.
Yeah.
She could have a different kind of tattoo. Like we know Riddick has just a tattoo. It was kind of a weird like detail to throw in there. Like, did she get a different tattoo that means something else that she's gonna have to figure out what it means?
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I had.
Okay. So I also just, it feels right. I think that Violet's appearance is different. Like there is something about her appearance that is different. I know that her hair being fully silver and fully dedicated to Dune now is a popular theory. I like it. I feel like it's been talked about a bunch, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But I started thinking through other things about her physical appearance that could be different. So I, too, came up with maybe she has a tattoo on her forehead. Maybe she has a sign of dedication to some other god that we don't know exists yet. Like, there has been talk on the internet about Xaden and Talia's eyes potentially being a sign of dedication to Loyal. Like, maybe she just has something else different about her.
Yeah,
that's noteworthy.
I think that is actually what I think is happening here, but I'll get into why later.
Okay. I do want to mention, not because I think it's true, but because I think it doesn't hold any less water than these other things necessarily. There were only 3 people in the courtyard at that point in time, right? It was Imogen, Brennan, and Wilson,
And
I
yeah,
think,
and Violet. Yeah.
and Violet, who see her. And so he could have spotted red rims around her irises. Like, what if some other physical sign that she's turned in some capacity? Because if only Wilson were there, he would be uncomfortable for sure, but Imogen is there, so you can fix that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And we know that Brennan is not uncomfortable with good Venin, and it's his sister. So,
Yeah.
like, is there a possibility where Violet is turned? I don't really buy it, but I do think that it's like it is already implied if that dream that we talked about in the dreams deep dive is Violet's, that she might turn as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can rule that out as a possibility. And the third option, I'm actually going to defer because I'm going to get to something else later. So that was what I had. I think full dedication to someone is probably the most likely answer. I don't know if it's Dune, but they were at the temple.
Are we going to the same place?
I don't know. Let's see.
Is it the other who curries her favor?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, you know how I feel about red eyes in general. So
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Why
that was
would
a little
they-
bit of a cliffhanger, but just roll with us. Okay, we'll make it make sense. I
Well,
promise.
the funny thing is, if we both got to this point, we did not talk about this.
No.
So there's merit to it because we
Yeah.
both got to it, but maybe we didn't both get to it. All right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Why would they burn Violet?
Why would they burn Violet? So I don't think there's a super complex answer, but I want to talk through this. I don't have a ton of like groundbreaking stuff here, but and from the conversation, we can reasonably believe, right, that people are aware that Xaden is Venin. People are aware that he messed a lot of things up. It seems like they think he did a lot of things that we don't actually know whether he did or not. Like, we don't know what happened in these 12 hours, but havoc has been wreaked for sure. Wrought, sorry. There are dead riders, dead dragons, dead elders. There's a lot going on. And we know that Xaden is Venin. So to me, the simplest explanation here is there's no way anyone would believe that she isn't in league with Xaden at this point. She's been sleeping in his bed for the entire time, and she's now married to him and effectively rules Tairn. So you have to believe that there's going to be some tough political maneuvers coming for Violet in this next book. And we know that rebels have been burned. Like, that is the punishment, but it also is the punishment for breaking any law.
Yeah.
So who knows, like, what else could have happened where she could be burned. I also, like, had the thought, obviously, that maybe she is Venin, but fire doesn't kill Venin, so there's no reason that we would burn a Venin. So I don't have a very complex answer. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, so traitors are burned by dragonfire. So the quote this is about the rebellion relic, but it was designed to counter the signet of the rider whose dragon would kill them, he swallows, but it could only activate when killed by dragonfire, which is the primary method of execution for traitors, I whisper.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, it's dragonfire. We also get in the prologue of Onyx Storm, as you mentioned, it's really any laws. In the prologue of Onyx Storm, Violet and Andarna were like, we're in agreement that we will break laws to get this done. So they say, she's right. Every possible path may require breaking a few laws. Dragons do not answer to the laws of humans. So Andarna and Violet have that conversation literally in the prologue of Onyx Storm. Right. Yeah. So I think we can assume a couple laws have been broken here. Tairn also mentions he's very comfortable breaking dragon laws. Do not lecture me on the laws of my kind, or you will learn how comfortable I am breaking them. Probably being set up for a breaking of both human and dragon laws.
Definitely.
Whatever they are.
Well, elders are dead, so definitely.
The elders are dead.
3 of them.
3 of them. We'll get to who I think did that. The other option is that killing Violet is the quickest way to kill Xaden. We've been told, right? Ooh, I just had a light bulb moment. That's why the bond was broken. It's not so they could be apart. I mean, maybe it is, but it's so that Violet is safe, right? Because killing Violet won't kill Xaden anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we've also talked about this. I feel like anyone with 4 brain cells should know that that's no longer going to work, because the entire reason that Xaden would die is because Sigale dies when Tairn dies. So, like, if he's Venin...
But if he's Venin, it doesn't matter anymore.
This is no longer applicable.
Yeah.
You point... I think when I brought that up, you said maybe people are just stupid, which I expect. Like, that's fair.
Yeah. Right. We have talked about this.
But their lives are no longer...
Their lives are no longer linked. Right.
Yeah.
So that would be a reason to break the bond. I think what's interesting is how Andarna saying, I will not let them burn you. Like, how would Andarna stop them? Like, Tairn? Totally. Tairn could totally stop any dragon, right? But we've been led to believe Andarna is like on the smaller side, not as powerful, but like Andarna seems pretty confident that she could take on any dragon that tried to burn Violet. Does that. And so I went back and looked. Remember when they burned Amber Mavis? They brought 6 dragons to kill Amber Mavis, right?
Yeah.
Like, does Andarna think that she can take on 6 dragons? And if so, what did she learn from the Irids that made her think that?
So I definitely think Andarna was gone for a long time.
Yeah,
in
I love
Andarna
that.
world.
I love that.
Like, I think she's a totally different dragon now. I don't even know that we should necessarily assume that she can no longer carry Violet. Like, I don't know.
Andarna could have been how Violet got to Riorson House. I also had that thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I agree with, I mean, Andarna has never been short of confidence. I'll say that about her character.
That's true.
But she does seem to be batting a little bit over her weight here and seems perfectly comfortable doing so. So I definitely think she could have more ability than she lets on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the pretty straightforward answer. I have some more fun answers later, but we'll get there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Now let's get into the 12 missing hours. I'll start with a general comment, and then I think a bunch of our subsequent questions fall within that. So Violet has this certificate with the seal of Dune, blessed by the head priestess of Dune's temple, that she and Xaden are married. I think the head priestess of Dune's temple in question has to be the head priestess from Unbriel.
I agree.
If that's the case, then if they went to Unbriel, there is literally no physical way that they could have flown there and back in 12 hours. Which means one of two things is happening, right? Either Garrick can walk on water, which maybe, or they manipulated time and a lot more than 12 hours has passed since we're back. I think that this 12 hours is not actually 12 hours. I think way more could have gone on over way longer time, because I think Andarna can manipulate time now.
That didn't even occur to me. Let's talk through why we think they have to have gotten married in Unbriel, because Xaden says someone owes me a favor, and that someone is the priestess in Orisha. It is not the priestess in Unbriel. So I still agree with you that I think they have to have gotten married on Unbriel, but that's because I think Xaden can't go in the wards anymore. Right? I think Xaden can't be in Orisha for long enough to get married in Orisha. But that's kind of where my logic goes there. But I was like, okay, so they must have gotten married in Unbriel. But that also means they must have taken the priestess with them to get married in Unbriel. But if Violet's hair is completely silver now, they did go to Unbriel.
Right. A lot is hinging on theories here.
Yeah, well, that's the way this episode's gonna go.
I also just think, okay, so my other struggle with Orisha, even if Xaden can go in the wards and he just can't channel within the wards, there's no way that someone wouldn't have seen them. Like, Orisha is literally on fucking fire.
I know.
Like, if
Wilson said we all know Riorson did this. He can't just go into Orisha.
Yeah. Like I just find it really, really hard to believe. And yes, like, it was the priestess of the Orishan temple who owed Xaden a favor. However, like, the queen in Unbriel knows and respects Violet.
Yeah, I mean, Violet might be the queen of Unbriel. Yeah,
Violet can enter their court at the rank of queen.
Right.
So I still think the case for Unbriel is much stronger than the case for getting married in Orisha.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, one priestess owes you a favor, maybe they all owe you a favor. You are just owed a favor by the church, basically, Right, yeah. Or, like, is there a way, I'm trying to think whether there's a way for, because, like, we have not been told at all what this power that these priestesses have actually is. Like, I have no idea. Could this have helped them get to Unbriel? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, right. So, okay, so let's talk. I guess we're just going to get into where did they get married?
Where did they get married? Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So we talked about the priestess in Orisha owes him a favor, but we think it's an Unbriel. Right. So how did they get to Dune's temple in Unbriel? I'm going to be honest with you here. I didn't even have time manipulation as an option. So I love that. Option 1, Tairn. Tairn somehow got them there in 12 hours, and that's why he needs a cycle of rest to recover. That's why he's so tired. Again, these fucking isles aren't on the map. So I know, I went back and I did the math. The first time they go to Unbriel, it takes them 8 days, but they make a lot of stops and they have to fly slower because of the griffin. So I don't know if and they stop in Deverelli. This is when they're like, okay, we're stopping in Deverelli to resupply. Right. We don't know where Unbriel is. I really don't think it would only take 12 hours. And even if even if Tairn could fly there in 12 hours, Zagail can't. Right.
Yeah.
So
I just don't feel like it could have happened in 12 hours. Even Garrick, like, what, Garrick's gonna carry Xaden and Violet over that length
But
of water?
only to the edge of the continent, because then he can't wield anymore.
Right.
Right.
If that's the case, yeah.
Right. So it's not Garrick either. And we know Garrick is exhausted, even if Naolin gives him energy, even if Naolin siphons into him, even if, and I don't think Garrick is a Venin, right? But like the magic stops at the edge of the continent. There is no more magic. Yeah. Oh no, look, I did have this an option. Let's not forget Andarna is back and can maybe manipulate time.
I think
that's what happened. I think that has to be what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. It
Time
wasn't 12
manipulation
hours.
is how this happened.
Assuming that Xaden can't go into Orisha, and assuming they got married.
No, even then, someone would have, I don't know, I guess like he could have enveloped the entire temple in darkness, but then people would just see a floating black cloud and be like, that's Xaden Riorson. Like there's clearly a witch hunt going on for him right now.
Unless he's doing that Venin sharing signet thing with Bodhi, and Bodhi's power is invisibility.
Then we have to have like 3 theories of ours come through for that to be the case. That actually would need to be Bodhi's signet. Bodhi would need to be Venin, and you would have to be able to share signets.
Yeah.
Those are all
probably
things that are
more
not
likely time manipulation, which we've already seen happen in this book.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Cool.
I like
and
it.
then, so that was the other piece of like what could be different about Violet. I think this is a stretch for sure, but like if time manipulation is in play,
you think she's an old lady now?
Like, does she just look old? Like, does she look old or does she look different? I don't know. Yeah. So I don't think that's it, but like it is, if you're going to throw time manipulation into play, you should at least consider.
I would love it if the next book was just the 12 hours. Some part of me would love that. Some part of me would hate it because the story wouldn't move forward at all. All right. So missing 12 hours, probably more like 16 days, maybe, if we're going by flight time to Unreal.
Weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Does raise the question, though, of what... So here's what's interesting, okay? Because Xaden, there's no magic. There's no magic on Unreal, but we think Xaden can be on Unreal because there's no wards, right? I think that's why I think Xaden can't go into Orisha, because there are wards in Orisha, but there are not wards on Unreal. So, like, we know Xaden can go to Unreal. We know from that study he can't last very long without magic. But, like, he can go and then come back.
Yeah. And I mean, if... I'm trying to think. Like, if Violet had, like, a conduit or 2, he could definitely survive 2 weeks. So
they all have daggers.
Yeah.
So many daggers in Drathus right now.
Yeah. So I feel okay about him surviving on the Isles for a shortened period.
For a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But not forever.
Yeah. I also think, while we're on the crazy train for a second, like, if Naolin is Venin, and if there is a faction of Venin that are anti-Venin, if that makes sense, like, if there's, like, good Venin for good, who are kind of trying to, like, to defeat them from the inside out, I think the world gets a lot bigger in terms of, like, who could be Venin, what kind of signets they could have, like, there could be a lot of really interesting stuff there. Like, do we know other distance wielders on the other side? I don't know.
Yeah.
Lots of power options.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Who are the 4 missing riders and their dragons?
All right. So the quote is, official numbers are 4 riders, their dragons, and 3 elders murdered in the valley in what we're estimating is the last few hours. But after that display, we all know Riorson did this. I bet the other 3 are already dead. So missing riders and their dragons confirmed, Xaden and Garrick, because Lieutenant Tavis is among the missing. Highly speculating Bodhi is the 3rd missing brother. Sorry.
Missing rider. I know you think he's his brother too. I also think he's his brother. My bullets under Bodhi are hilarious. I said, I assume Bodhi, because otherwise he would be there looking for Violet too. And then next, because he didn't want Xaden's fucking prophet.
Your fucking promise. All right. Who is the 4th? I have a most likely option, and I have a wild card option. And something you just said actually convinced me more of my wild card option. So my most likely option is Arik.
Yeah.
Right. Arik has been working with them this whole time. He seems to know what's going on. Him and Xaden have formed this bond. Seems like he's probably going with them. Mm-hmm. But what you just said about the political maneuvering that is going to be needed in book 4 to keep Violet alive makes me think it's not Arik, right? I think Arik is going to be needed as a prince to help protect Violet and to help kind of keep Violet going. And most people don't know what his signet is, right? So like his involvement could be kept very, very under wraps. Like people could have no idea that he was part of this. I don't know how they'd explain he got the troops, but maybe he could say that because he was a prince, he was alerted to it, like through official channels or something like that. Okay, so my wild card option. Do you have a wild card option for this? Or
I do.
all right.
Yeah,
Is it Dane?
it's Dane.
Yeah. I think it's
Because I think either Auric or Dane need to be with them if they're anywhere near the Isles.
Oh, that didn't even occur to me. That didn't even
That's
occur to me,
why
but
I-
that's a great point. I think it's Dane for a couple reasons. One, Xaden and Dane have been getting closer this whole book, right? Like they've been like, Dane is talking about how he's like admiring Xaden. Xaden's being very nice to Dane. They're definitely kind of arcing towards a friendship that was not there before. So what's the point of that? We talked about this in the last episode that Berwin has something that Xaden needs, right? Xaden is not a full mind reader, even though sometimes it seems like he can read Violet's mind fully, but he's not a full mind reader. He can't see memories. He can't see everything, but Dane can, right? Dane has that signet. If they need to find out how Violet can harness her dream walking power, I think you grab Dane because you need Dane to read Berwin's memories. Also, the flip side of this, Dane could potentially be used against Violet, right? Like Dane can read Violet's memories, maybe even if they're wiped, we're not sure. And you don't want that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, and I also have a note here. If Dane thought going with them was going to save Violet's life, he would do it, right? Like, I think it's Dane. I think Dane is my wild card option. I'm happy Dane is also your wild card option.
Well, to me, like, interestingly, Dane and Auric both play really similar roles in this particular scenario, which is one of the two of them probably needs to be with that group because of potential travel in the Isles. And to your point, like, I know Auric is precognition, so he's only seeing what's going to happen, but like they do both have the ability to understand things covertly. Yeah. Is the way that I'll put it.
Yeah.
And they are also the two people who would literally lay themselves down to protect Violet. So one of them needs to be with Violet, and one of them, in my opinion, needs to be with that group. I do think if Auric is with them, then Dane is going to be the person who plays a key role in making sure that Violet is safe and cared for alongside Brennan. I do think Brennan's going to play a really important part in that because he has obviously some significant rank and trust.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, right? Like two characters that are otherwise not similar at all play pretty similar roles on either side of this.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. We think it's Dane. I hope it's Dane. Oh, it's so much more fun if it's Dane.
It's more fun if it's Dane. Auric would be really fun also.
I want Auric to be with Violet.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what the fuck Auric knows. And we only find that out if Violet finds out.
Not seeing what Auric's seeing.
But maybe he already knows. Because this is the only way. Maybe he already knows.
Ever changing. I agree. I agree with you. Like, I think Xaden knows enough at this point.
Oh, but if Auric tells Violet, Violet tells Xaden in a dream. Problem solved. We're off
the only other note that I have against this is that we had to come up with two because Imogen did not count against the missing. She was there the whole time.
Yeah. You don't have any other options?
Nope.
Cool.
Xaden, Garrick, Bodhi, Auric, or Dane.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Elders and riders murdered in the valley. Who were the elders and riders murdered in the valley? We, to my knowledge, as of the Bisgayath Empyrean, only know one elder, and that is Kodag. If Kodag were murdered, that would be crazy. But he is also the only confirmed elder we know. I guess you could say that we confirm Andarna and Tairn, but we know that they are alive and fine. Yeah. So, like, is Kodag dead?
I think Kodag did this.
So maybe let me start with this. Do you think that the elders were Bisgayath elders or Aretian elders?
I think they're Aretian elders, and I'm going to, because of these quotes. So official numbers are 4 riders, they're dragons, and 3 elders murdered in the valley. And what we're estimating is the last few hours. And then in Iron Flame chapter 2, we get the quote, "It is the valley above Riorson House, heated by natural thermal energy that is its greatest asset." And then in Iron Flame chapter 43, we get the hatchling's choice transforms the valley back into a hatching ground. It changes the magic. I think this is the valley above Riorson House. I mean, they're at Riorson House, so I think it matters. But I think why that's important, once again, is because it means Xaden didn't do this.
Yeah. I totally think that Xaden, Tairn, and Sigil did not do this.
They did not do this.
Regardless.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think it is the valley above Riorson House, but that means that the Venin did not do this because the Venin cannot be within Orisha anymore, which means we need to look to someone else to do this, right?
I did have a note. Do you think that Panchik could have been bonded to an elder?
No. I don't think the elders are bonded. I mean, I know we have the theory. Oh, Kodag's bonded. Never mind. No. Because it says in the valley, and it says in the last few hours, and what happened to Panchik happened more than 12 hours ago.
So you think Kodag murdered 3 Aretian elders?
I think we have been building towards a plot line in this book that never comes to fruition of King Tauri retaliating against Xaden, right? So we have multiple epigraphs, right? Let me find them. All right. We have multiple epigraphs. If Tyrandor does not immediately restore the flow of Palladium, the consequences will be dire, not only for the province, but the continent. Province and the continent, right? This is not a request. It is an order from your king. Xaden doesn't respond to that. Absolutely nothing happens from that, right?
Yeah.
But that is in here, right? We also know that the daggers can kill dragons now. So you don't need hundreds of dragons. Well, 3 elders and 4 dragons. You don't need 7 dragons to take on 7 dragons. You actually only need 1 person and daggers, right? So I think this was an act of retaliation from King Tari. I think Melgren and Kodag did this because they're not Venin. They can be within the Iritian wards. And I think Melgren knew that this battle was going to happen, right? He knew that the dragons would not be in the valley. He knew that the elders would be unguarded. I think him and King Tari conspired to murder the elders as punishment for Xaden not giving them the alloy that they want.
How would Melgren have known about that battle if there were so many marked ones there?
I guess that's true. There were so many marked ones there. Well, I assume he would have found out about it eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I guess I'm still struggling with the idea of this being due to dragons in general.
I think it's due to King Tari.
Other dragons. Yeah, but actually killing other dragons. Dragons killing other dragons is really, really bad.
Right. We know Tairn wouldn't kill Solus.
And Andarna goes through like literally court after she kills Solus.
Yeah.
So
but Kodag is an elder. That's also why I think it's Kodag. Because like Kodag doesn't have to answer to anyone.
Yeah. To what end then? I guess you think it's just retaliation.
I think it's retaliation. I think it's to destable the Iritian riot. I think it's to leave them in a state of complete chaos so that they can attack. And maybe I'm wrong about Melgren knowing about the battle. Maybe this was always supposed to be a like covert attack or something, right? And they just got lucky they got unlucky that most of the dragons weren't there. Most of the dragons were fighting at Drathis.
Interesting. Did you perceive this to be happening during the battle? I've perceived it to be happening
after. It happened after.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the important piece here is that Xaden didn't do this. And Sigale and Tairn also didn't do this. They're exhausted from battle.
Yeah.
And Sigale and Tairn are off on Umbriel getting Violet and Xaden married. So they didn't do this.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had other things to be doing. I think I agree. I totally agree with you that Xaden did not do it. I think I agree with you that Navarre did it. I guess I'm torn on whether it was dragons or not.
It could have just been Melgren. You're right. It doesn't need to have been Melgren and Kodag. But I do think this is, because we have so many letters back and forth between Tari and Xaden and nothing comes of it that we know of. But I think this is what came of it. I think this is the like act of war. And we know that Brennan says, so with the last Tirish rebellion, right? We know that Fen attacked Navarre. Which was like, and Brennan said, that was dumb. He shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But so this time it's Navarre attacking Tyrandor, I think.
Yeah.
That's how I think it's happening. Because there is literally no way Sigale and Tairn killed the elders. Like, that would just be so out of character.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, like, assuming this is confirmed Iritian elders, I totally agree with that. I still agree with it if it's not Iritian elders, for what it's worth, but, like, I think this whole theory, I like it a lot. I think it only holds if this were Iritian elders.
Well, as opposed to Basgaeth elders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're also assuming there's 2 riots. It's not 100% convinced there's 2 riots, but...
Right. But if there's not 2 riots, then, like, why is Kodag killing his fellow elders? Right,
but I don't think that Brennan would care about... Like, I just don't think that would be a note in this battle that Basgaeth elders were killed in the valley. You know?
I guess this gets to, like, foundationally how we understand dragons. Like, are elders just elders? Like, do they all get the same, like, reverence and respect from all dragons from everywhere because they are elders? I don't think we know the answer. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. There's a quote. Andarna has a quote, or Tairn has a quote. It's something about her soul. I remember, because it's like another soul thing.
Yeah, it's like
a blemish on the soul or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Dragon eggs. Who took them? Why? I don't have like tons to go on here, so I'll just recap what we know, right? We know that Umbriel, when they were there, directly asked for 12 dragon eggs. We've talked a lot about like how they arrived at 12. They like 2 of each kind. Like you don't know what color they're gonna be. So like that, I still don't understand how that works. Fine. So when 6 dragon eggs go missing, and again, it's 6, but being recounted, so we're not 100% sure that it's 6. I feel like the first thing that our mind is drawn to is the fact that the Isles want dragon eggs. The Isles have asked for dragon eggs. So where I go is this either had to have struck a deal with Umbriel, like basically negotiated to a compromise, which I don't personally like, but I could see like that is how deals are negotiated. So maybe fine. Or something else is going on. So the two things that I thought about, and again, I have very little to go off of for any of these. Could they be bringing the eggs somewhere else? So could they have done something else in those 12 hours or not 12 hours, gone to Loisam, like gone somewhere else where dragon eggs would be useful, like establishing new hatching grounds would be useful for them, would change the magic and allow them to exist somewhere else? Or could they have gotten the other half of the eggs from somewhere else? Is there another hatching ground where they could have gotten half and fulfilled the deal with Unreal?
And well, we know there's another. I mean, Basgiath is still a hatching ground, so.
Yeah. And could this have also been a condition? I know that Xaden says that the priestess owed him a favor, but if they went to Umbriel, like, could this have been something to help them with their marriage and with whatever Xaden is doing next?
Maybe.
As far as who took them, I think it's our guys. I think our guys took them.
I think our guys took them, but I have more thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
All right. So yeah, I actually think I have 4 options here. And then I have a 5th that's a fun one. All right, so as you mentioned, bargaining chip for an Unbush army. This is the most popular theory. They've taken the eggs to Umbriel. The reason why this works is because Umbriel wants eggs. You mentioned the reason it doesn't work is they want 12 eggs. They only have 6. Umbriel says they want to shape dragons to their will. I don't think there's a world in which Tairn agrees to this even one bit. And we know that Sigale says we have to get Tairn to agree to this plan in order to do anything. I do not think there's a shot in hell of this, right? I mean, maybe it's the alternative is worse, and Tairn's like, you just wait till you see how comfortable I am breaking laws and all of that. But like, Tairn would never allow dragons to be subjugated by humans. That's my thinking. So I don't think that they're going to Umbriel with these eggs. Option 2, this is my favorite option, and I haven't seen this option anywhere, but I think it's very sweet. Could these be Sigale and Tairn's eggs? Could they have eggs? And they are taking them away from Orisha to protect them, because they realize that Orisha is no longer safe and maybe can no longer be trusted, right? Like, Violet's memories were wiped, right?
Yeah.
So, like, clearly there's something going on with Orisha that they don't fully trust. Obviously, Xaden is now Venin too, but, like, could they be protecting the eggs? The other thing is, Sigale and Xaden just saw a dragon get killed by a dagger, right? These daggers are all over the continent. Are they like, oh, fuck, humans are not safe anymore. We cannot be near humans. We have to take our eggs and go somewhere else with them.
Yeah.
Sigale and Tairn are kind of hinted at having hatchlings a couple times, right? So that's in the Vale with Andarna. We also get the mention that there aren't many black dragons and that maybe it's time for Tairn and Sigale to get busy. Maybe they have gotten busy, right? And we know that there's those times where Tairn is unaccounted for.
Yeah.
Is he watching the eggs, right? And they do mention that the dragons and their clutches moved to Orisha, so it could have been like they had the eggs in Basgiath and they're moving them. And Andarna took 600 years to hatch, so who knows how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
I like this theory. I wrote under each of these theories reasons why this works, reason why this doesn't, and under reason why this doesn't work, I wrote none. This theory is perfect.
I don't know that I believe that they could have laid 6 eggs at one time, but I like it.
Well, I'm not saying they laid 6, but the eggs take a while to hatch. Like, we don't know how long that, and like, it seems like some dragons can choose when they hatch, so.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But, and we know Sigale is like a fierce mama hen, right? Like,
yeah,
if they're Sigale's eggs, she's not going anywhere without them. That's my thinking.
Yeah.
Option number 3, you mentioned this, they're trying to establish new hatching grounds somewhere to change the magic, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to bring magic back somewhere. This could be an isle. This could be the Barrens. So basically they brought the eggs to an isle to establish magic so that Sigale can still survive, right? Basically, because wherever they are, I think this is an important thing to remember, Sigale is going to need magic or she's going to be in pain, right? So that kind of negates all of the, oh, Xaden and Sigale are off in the isles theory, right? Because Xaden says he would never do that to Sigale, and whatever they've done, Sigale has agreed to it.
Yeah. And now their incentives are more aligned in that regard too, right? Like Xaden can't survive without magic either anymore.
Right. Xaden, yeah. So like the way I see it, and this kind of gets into our last question, Xaden can continue. Xaden doesn't need to channel, but he needs to still get magic from Sigale in order to live, is what I'm seeing it. Like, he needs to have a constant access to magic. He doesn't necessarily need to be channeling from the source. I think Sigale can be that source.
Yeah.
But like, they have like they have to have access to magic or he's going to be like Jack and like be emaciated and super weak. And I don't think that's part of their plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Option 4, we've talked about. They're taking the eggs to the gods to give them back their power. That was my precog theory one time. I still like this theory. The reason it doesn't work is because we don't, like, what does that mean? Like, are there physically gods? Where would they be? How would Sigale know where to go? Like, where is that?
Yeah. I do think one thing that we haven't explicitly stated, but I think we both genuinely believe, is because Theophany died by being stabbed with stone from the Temple of Dune, like, to me, that solidified, like, the gods are not just something that people, like, pray to and, like, invoke and are kind of passive beings. Like, they do stuff.
Yeah,
They are
absolutely.
involved characters. And so I wouldn't disprove the theory that the eggs are being taken to the gods. We have been given enough to, like, truly personify the gods at this point.
Yeah. And it's 6 eggs, 6 gods, and we talked about maybe the dragons stole their power, so maybe this is a gift back to them to like be in the favor of the gods again. I don't know, but it's 6 and 6 again, which we know is Rebecca's like favorite number. So those are my theories on where the eggs have gone. My favorite theory is that they're Sigale and Tairn's eggs, and Sigale is guarding them with her life, and not letting those daggers anywhere near them. I had another sub question here. So who actually took the eggs?
Mm-hmm.
Venin can't go into Orisha. Bodhi and Xaden are out.
Mm-hmm.
Xaden and Violet, we talked about, are probably off on Unbriel on their multi-day trip. Violet probably didn't take the eggs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are our co-conspirators? Imogen. We've talked about this. I don't think Imogen knows anything. Because if Imogen knew something, there's no point in wiping Violet's memory. You have to keep them both clean, so to speak. Garrick, exhausted from the battle, right? Doubt he can sneak into a hatching ground and grab some eggs really quickly and sneak out. Auric, I put Auric as a maybe. Maybe Auric could do this. I don't know. But
are you assuming that it was actually the rider that took them? I'm totally assuming it's the dragon.
Well, here's where I'm getting super fun. Who's Sigwit, do we know, that can summon objects across long distances? Ree.
Yeah.
So this is why I think we got the Ree POV chapter, because I think Ree summoned these eggs to wherever they are. I think she is involved in this, at least in that part of it. And we don't know where she is at the end of Onyx Storm. We don't know if her memory has also been wiped. But this to me is why Ree gets a POV chapter, because she has a part to play in all this.
Here's my question about who took the eggs and whether it's okay. I don't feel like these eggs could have been stolen and the thief survives. Like, I read this as some elder agreed to this, right? And so did Tairn agree to this, and then that's why it's okay. Like, I struggle a little bit with like egg snatching, like literally the concept of egg snatching, because the riot would not let them survive after that.
I mean, yeah, but if they're Sigale's eggs, I guess Ree doesn't need to like snatch them.
If they're Sigale and Tairn's eggs, not the supplies, like then I think it's totally valid, and they've taken their eggs and they're off to the races. Yeah. But if anybody took the eggs against the will of the Empyrean, I don't know that makes sense in my mind. Like, how are they allowed to live after that?
I don't know. That's a good point. But I still think maybe Ree's Signet has a part to play here. And maybe Ferga is too dumb to know what's going on. I don't know. She doesn't know about Farsights.
Yeah, like, Ferga also just doesn't give me elder vibes either.
Oh, no, she's definitely not an elder. No.
I guess, like, what other politics could be at play here? I mean, do you think that the Irids would want other dragons
to teach them, like, to be peaceful, maybe?
To teach them to be peaceful. And you need them to fire ward stones, I suppose, but why would anyone else need ward stones?
Oh, you think they're Irid eggs?
No, I'm wondering whether Irids would want
to fire another ward stone is very intriguing.
Yeah, but I don't know why.
Because it's 6 eggs and 6 dragons, but you don't know the breeds.
You don't know the breeds, yeah. So maybe it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Unless the Irids can make it so that certain breeds hatch.
Yeah.
Which nothing seems to be out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay, intriguing. I need to think about that one.
Don't know. Okay, what's next? We kind of already covered where and why did they get married. I guess we didn't really cover the why.
Because Tyrandor has no heir.
Tyrandor needs an heir. I would like to think that this also plays into the path of everything ends up okay. Like, I do think that getting married in the Temple of Dune, not Loyal, is significant. And I do think the easy answer is, the priestess owed Xaden a favor, and like probably no other temple would marry a Venin and a rider. But I do think it's interesting that it was Dune, and that Dune is the only goddess we've seen unvenin a Venin.
Yeah. And we know that people typically get married in the Temple of Loyal because
Right.
Riddick makes some joke to Violet about marrying Xaden, and she's like, I doubt Loyal would let me in her temple. I haven't prayed to her in years.
Right. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think they got married at Dune's temple. I mean, they definitely did.
They did
That's
get married.
not even a
at
question.
Temple. That's
Yeah.
not a debate. Yeah, I think the
That's not a
debate is
debate.
like, could it have played a larger role than just getting Tyrandor an heir? I would like to think that because Dune is the only goddess that we've seen potentially unvenin a Venin, potentially
Yeah.
cure a Venin. I would like to think that this plays a larger role in fixing this big fat mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So why did Tairn need a cycle of rest to recover? So the quote is, I reach for Tairn, but the bond feels foggy like he's asleep. He needs a cycle of rest to recover, Andarna clarifies. So when did dragons need rest? Andarna needed extra rest after she expended too much energy at Riorson, so that's why she went into the dreamless sleep for longer. Violet, after her bond with Andarna is broken, doesn't get out of bed for 3 days, so she also like needs extra rest. Whether that's actually rest or depression, kind of up for debate. So one of the theories is the bond being broken with Sigale. Andarna broke the bond so that they can be separated, and also, as we talked about, so that Violet can't be used against Xaden. It's not like killing Violet won't kill Xaden. I think this is a valid theory. I don't have anything like crazy here.
No,
And we have a couple quotes here that kind of talk about that. So there is no stronger bond than that between two mated dragons. It goes beyond the depth of human love or adoration to a primal, undeniable requirement for proximity. One cannot survive without the other. So like they literally need to be together.
Yeah.
Unless the bond is broken.
Yeah.
And then Tairn says to Violet, this is when he calls Xaden Violet's mate, I'll say the same when you've been unable to communicate with your mate for weeks and are then deprived by choice. He grumbles, stalking into the woods, blah, blah, blah. Humans don't mate. I call after him. Another sign of your inferiority. If the bond is broken between Sigale and Tairn, and that's why Tairn's in the cycle of rest, okay, that makes sense. But he called Xaden Violet's mate, right? Tairn called Xaden Violet's mate. So is there a bond between them that is still in place because they did not know that it existed and also needs to be broken? And is that going to be kind of a gotcha moment in the next book? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, didn't Lovebug also call out you called out a theory off the back of Lovebug's theory that maybe one was created?
I called out a theory that, well, I have here that maybe Andarna just reshaped the bond between Tairn and Sigale instead of breaking it. We know there's romantasy tropes where these bonds are like too strong to be broken, so it can't actually be broken, but maybe it was reshaped. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that Andarna has created really any bond breaking, shaping, or remaking is on the table at this point, I think. So it could be that there's a bond between Andarna and Xaden now. It could be that there is an actual bond between Violet and Xaden now. I think any of those are on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the only notes I had for this one were it has to be something specific to Tairn because Violet is awake.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, we've only seen cycles of rest after Andarna used a bunch of magic. Okay. And after Violet lost a dragon.
Right. Exactly.
So I feel pretty strongly that something happened with Sigale and Tairn. Whether the bond was broken, whether the bond was reshaped. Totally makes sense. Could also be something totally different that we have no hints for.
Well, it could be that Tairn has just flown all the way back to and from Umbriel in a short amount of time.
Right. Yeah.
That is also possible.
Yeah.
After having fought a huge battle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. And potentially, like, I don't know, if anyone had to go with them that couldn't carry themselves, dragon-wise, then he was literally carrying others as well.
I do think only Violet and Xaden and Sigale and Tairn went to Umbriel. I don't think they all went to Umbriel.
I think Andarna went with them, though.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think Andarna went with them. Maybe they found... Oh, no, Andarna was back already. Never mind.
Yeah, Andarna's back.
Andarna's back.
Back just in time for Violet to stab Theophany.
Right.
Thank you, Andarna.
All right.
Okay.
What is it? This is my most fun one, I think.
Okay. This is probably one of my least fun ones. I feel really strongly, I'll just get it out there. I feel really strongly that it is Xaden's soul. I think the obvious options are Xaden's soul and Tyrandor. I know that we actually have heard Tyrandor referred to as both a she and an it. So that is not, in my opinion, a valid argument against it being Tyrandor, especially because I think when Violet makes the promise to protect Tyrandor, it is described as an it.
It definitely is, yeah.
Not a she. The reason that I think it's Xaden's soul is only because of literary reasons. Only because we have had direct quotes where Violet has said, I will hold everything you don't want to feel. I love every part of you. And Xaden has said, you already hold my soul. And now you want my pain. He worships her. He lives by her. Is there a way to dedicate your soul to somebody that's not a god? If so, I think Xaden did that, basically, is what I'm saying.
So, okay, so my train of thought is similar to that, but it's not quite the same. What's interesting to me in this sentence is not the it is the now. It's yours now is what interests me. And I also had, I think Tyrandor is a completely valid answer. I think it's a totally valid answer. I think it completely works for this. Let's talk about the soul part, right? You mentioned Xaden says you already hold my soul. I have quotes from Onyx Storm chapter 34. You just read this one. You already hold my soul and now you want to hold my pain. Chapter 40, he says, all right, he grips my waist. I mean it when I say you own my soul. You're the only place I feel not completely like me anymore. You're not a trigger. Tairn says in chapter 1, his soul is no longer his own, right? I know that's not about Violet, but Violet has had Xaden's soul kind of this whole time, right? He has said, you have my soul this whole time. So why is he saying now? Why is he saying now? When Andarna asked the Irids for a cure, she says, like, surely if they're trading their souls, there's a way to get them back. The Irids say it is not a trade, the female lectures. The soul is not kept by the earth as dark wielders steal its magic. The power exchange kills the soul one piece at a time, as death has no cure. Okay? So here's my train of thought. I literally wrote down bullet points train of thought because I know sometimes I'm bad at this. Xaden has lost his soul by channeling to save Dreythus, right? The last pieces of his soul erupt. We know he keeps one little piece, but like most of his soul is gone. Yeah. His soul has been killed and death has no cure. Malek is the god of death and collector of souls. Malek is the other god that curries Violet's favor. Malek has the power to resurrect people. We have a quote from Fourth Wing. After all, bonding makes you a rider, but resurrecting someone from the dead, now that makes you a god. I somehow don't think that Malek takes kindly to a mortal treading on his territory, right? Ergo, vis-a-vis, if Violet is now dedicated to Malek, Violet can potentially resurrect Xaden's soul. So I think the thing that has changed about her is not that she has silver hair. I think the physical difference is that she is now somehow dedicated to Malek. And that's why his soul is hers now. Here's my last piece of this. What is constantly burned in these stories? The possessions of the dead. If Violet is dedicated to Malek, she is now a possession of the dead. And that is why Andarna says, I will not let them burn you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I'm trying to follow. Violet's dedicated to Malek. Okay, so like she's dedicated, so she belongs to Malek.
She's a possession of the dead. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's why Xaden's soul is hers now versus this entire story. In my mind, it's the same thing as the King Tari stuff, right? Like we've had little sprinkles of it here and there throughout the story and it never seems to play out. But what if it has played out and we just haven't realized it?
Interesting. So you do think it's his soul? But
I think it's his soul, but I think it's his soul because she's been dedicated to Malek.
Dedicated to Malek.
And so Malek is the collector of souls.
I mean, she's a servant of Malek is the way that I think dedication typically works. Not necessarily a possession, but I still like the...
Well, she's Malek's possession. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Like servant, like they don't call themselves slaves.
Oh, I didn't say slave. But
no,
yeah.
I know, but possession, like you don't own a human being.
I know. But...
yeah, I like it.
And we don't know, and that's why I'm saying I'm not sure that the Venin are dedicated to Malek because, like, I think that's different. I think it's
Well, but in a way, what you've described is actually not that far off, right? Like, if their souls, that's like what brings me to that conclusion is their souls are dead. Like, their souls belong to Malek, if that's the case. If their souls truly do die. So I understand there could be like differences in like Venin. There's no way that Venin are truly like in the temple form dedicated to Malek because they don't talk about him at all. They don't like care really. Like they don't mention him or any sort of reverence. They're inherently selfish beings who just want access to power. But in a way, they are all Maleks.
Yes, I agree. But I think it's different I think there is a difference between channeling and going to like Malek's temple and dedicating yourself to him.
Yeah.
And in a way, she already had the power of Dune. So what's the benefit of dedicating herself fully to Dune? Wouldn't it be better to spread the power, right? So from Dune, she gets the weapon, but from Malek, she gets the cure.
Yeah.
And she's after both of them. We know those are the two that are kind of after her.
Yeah.
Right?
And we also know that she still has paths to choose from at this point. Well, maybe not now, but
maybe not now.
But the conclusion of chapter 65, she did. Interesting. I like it.
Those were my crazy theories. There was Melgren, Rhiannon, and Malek. Those were the big ones.
The Melgren and Rhiannon ones I'm still coming to terms with. The third one I definitely like. I definitely like the idea of her being dedicated and looking different to someone who's not Dune. Because then, like, think about what power that gives her, right? Like, if she is touched by Dune and dedicated to another god, and has an Irid and has a regular dragon, and we're on the fence on whether she's part Venin. Like, she is literally the intersection of all forms of power.
I know.
At that point. Could be huge.
That's my theory. I don't know what the physical description, I don't know what the physicality of being dedicated to Malek is. I don't know what that would look like.
I mean, I don't think we've seen it.
I don't think we've seen it either.
Any physical manifestation of dedication to Dune. Although, one plot hole that has bothered me for a while related to dedication and silver hair is that in Umbriel, they say, do you dye your hair?
No, they say it in Arisha.
No, in Umbriel, they asked whether your hair is dyed because you dye your hair in Arisha. So why is Violet so absolutely floored when she gets to Umbriel and sees half silver hair, as if she's never seen that in her entire life, if the priestesses in Umbriel think that's what you do on the continent?
Yeah.
It's truly just a hole. Nothing more to say. It's just like,
it's like
you should have probably run into that already.
Well, we know she never goes to temple.
Yeah, her mother was not temple minded. It's fine. So our next question is, why did Imogen erase her memory and how? I feel like the how is more interesting than the why, in my opinion.
I didn't have any answers for the how.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll do the how and you do the why. Perfect.
I didn't have any crazy answers for this one anyway.
Okay. I have a crazy answer.
Great. I love it. I mean, the way I saw it, there's 3 possibilities here. 1, so that she can't be implicated in a rebellion plot, right? 2, so that she can't find Xaden. 3, so that she doesn't remember she's been dedicated to Malek, but that's a crazy one. But I mean, I think that's basically it, so that she can't find Xaden and that she can't be accused of being a traitor.
Yeah, I think it's fully to protect Violet is the why. The how we need to talk about, because she can't remember anything from when, and I read this to make sure that it was true. She cannot remember anything after her killing Theophany and passing out. That's the last thing she remembers when she starts to remember things. So I went back to the last time we saw Imogen erase memories. And she takes 4 minutes to erase a maybe 10-minute conversation between Violet and Jack. Violet specifically says, 4 minutes later, we emerge from the staircase. So in theory, even if Imogen had the power to do this, it would have literally taken her 5 hours to erase 12 hours of memory, which gets us down to 7 hours. So I don't see how Imogen
assuming no time manipulation.
Right, assuming no time manipulation. But even so, like, those are still memories that need to be erased. Well, yeah, I guess you're saying if time manipulation could have solved the 5 hours to erase 12 problem, but you still have more than 12 hours worth of memories that would occur then during that time. So I just don't see how Imogen could have done this. I think it's more likely that someone else wiped Violet's memory, and Imogen just cleared her memory of how she got there.
Okay. Who? I'm not against
Don't know. Do not know. Venin, priestess, no idea. We haven't seen any other memory erasing signets, but we know that Imogen's exists. And so is there somebody else? Is Xaden now in with this, like, good guy faction of Venin that helped? Or is Xaden sharing signets and now he can do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like,
it
does
seems
not
like
make
only
sense.
sages and mavens can share segments, but yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense for Imogen to have been able to do it unless she's getting a crazy amount of power from another source. So, like, if Sloane and Andarna were in the picture, then, like, maybe she's able to do it.
Well, it does seem that Andarna is in the picture.
Andarna's in the picture. We don't know where Sloane is.
We also know Dane has so much power, but maybe less now because he's already been drained a bit. That is funny. Sloane is basically just like a power-up for anyone who happens to be near her. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. that 12 hours is like, didn't they have a conversation at one point where Violet was like, how far back can you go? Or was that with Dane and his memory reading?
I don't remember, but I distinctly remember Imogen's signet being described as being able to erase recent
memories. Yeah.
Yeah. So how far back does that go? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this points towards time manipulation again.
Yeah.
Or bad writing. I don't think so.
Another thought I had was like, okay, if Imogen was with them, did she like get a bunch of power, learn things in that time? But she wasn't. She was there. She was in Arisha.
So we also know, I think, a couple interesting things here, that there's like a strong current of magic, I believe, near Arisha, right? Yep. So like maybe everyone's just a little more powerful in Arisha. Maybe everyone can just do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But also the veil is supposed to be where the most magic is. Yeah,
Gaiath is supposed to be where there's the most magic.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely an interesting open question.
Open question. All right.
Okay, Abby, where is Xaden now?
All right. So, I mean, we've already talked about this, but he can't survive without magic, right? We have two things that point to this, but the number one is Jack, right? So Jack has drained all of the magic in his cell. He is only being kept alive by the alloy. Like Tairn describes him as like, he's looking wan, he's looking weak, he looks very bad in the Ribestad chest. And that is because he has been deprived of magic, and his dragon is no longer alive, right? So he can't get magic from his dragon, he can't channel from the source. So, and I think I kind of explained this later, like earlier, like, I don't think Xaden needs to channel to stay alive because he has Sigale, so I think he can use Sigale to kind of like replenish whatever Venin need to stay alive. But like wherever they are, Sigale needs to have access to magic, or Xaden needs to have direct access to magic. So I don't think they can be on the Isles. Obviously, Zahilna is kind of an option. There's some magic there. Loisum, we don't know anything about. Loisum could be an option. There might be magic there. We're not sure. He could have taken a whole bunch of alloy daggers with him, but that doesn't feel like something he would do because he knows that weakens the wards. And obviously that's not like an infinite supply. So like I know people think he went to the Isles, but I don't think that works. I don't think he can be there because A, Sigale would be in pain, and B, he would be very weak very quickly. And assuming he has Berwin with him, which I am assuming, I think he's going to need to be tip top, you know?
Yeah.
So basically, that leaves Paromial or the Barrens. Paromial, I mean, clearly not Drathis because the wards are there now, but I think kind of anywhere else within Paromial is fair game. We know there's like mountainous regions in the north. We don't really know anything about Signissen. I don't know how you say it. Yeah. But that is an area of Paromial that has not been super duper explored or mentioned. So I think that's an option, but I kind of think the Barrens might be a more likely option. We know the Venin are somehow surviving there. Yeah. Maybe the water. So like, could he be going to like that northeast corner of the Barrens where the Venin don't seem to be because they seem to all be down at the water?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think it's the Isles.
Yeah. I think there's some important diversions of thought here based on whether you believe, one, that Xaden is going along with the Venin or just rebelling them out the gate, and then two, whether you believe that riders are still with him or whether you believe that everyone with him is also Venin.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I believe that everyone who's with him is not Venin. Like, I think there's a chance that he has riders with him, right? Like Dane or like Garrick. And if that's the case, I don't think he's just going along with all the rest of the Venin, because the Venin would not be down for just like a rider who's been their enemy going around with him. So I don't really think he's with Berwin. Like, I
do think he's with Berwin. Because he says he has something I need and he knocks him out. I think he has Berwin captured.
Berwin captured, I could see. Berwin captured, I could see.
Yeah.
But like moving with Berwin and the posse,
no.
I cannot see that.
I very much think he has Berwin captured in some kind of Ribestad-esque chest.
Yeah. In which case, like, that bond needs to have been broken, right? Yeah. If that's true. Like, Andarna needs to have helped him with that.
Exactly.
And then, assuming that you've got riders and him and the brother, who we think is Bodhi. If you got him, Bodhi, Garrick is with them probably as a rider, and then Dane or Ark is with them probably as a rider. They need to be somewhere that's safe for riders as well. So I kind of think that rules out the Barrens. Yeah. I don't think that they would all go to the Barrens.
Yeah, it might have to be Paromial somewhere.
So I think it has to be, Paromial. Or somewhere we haven't been yet, which I'm not ruling out.
Yeah.
Either. Like, they have dragons. So could they have gone up towards the Emerald Sea, like, totally.
Yeah, across the Emerald Sea. We cannot imagine life sustaining across the Emerald Sea, but...
And yet, it probably does.
Oh my god, and Dane knows all about piracy in the 5th century
Correct.
from the Emerald Sea.
Yeah. Good point. Yep.
If there is life across the Emerald Sea, Dane knows about it. Oh, Dane,
Right.
love you.
So that's where I think it's really interesting, right? Because Xaden needs to be in territory that's Venin friendly enough, but also rider friendly enough. Okay. In conclusion, we don't know where Xaden is.
I'm wondering if he's with Leothan. Like, I'm wondering if Leothan came back with Andarna
I
and
think,
took them somewhere.
yeah, I think the Irids are an interesting like piece on this chessboard, right? Because they have been obviously like really, really anti-Venin all the times that we have encountered them. However, Andarna was there for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, not for really that long, but for like a matter of days for sure, weeks. And in what we think happened, we think she manipulated time and was there for a while. So could she have convinced them that like Xaden and Violet are working not towards victory, but actually towards a resolution to the Venin problem and gotten at least Leothan, who we know is the one who like changed his mind.
Right. I don't think all Irids, but maybe Leothan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Be helping.
And then how would the eggs fit into that?
Another wardstone. I don't know. Like, what would the point of another wardstone be for that group, right?
To protect against the Venin.
But you would need, for Xaden to survive within them, you would need almost the inverse, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and they couldn't make another wardstone for like, Andarna can't breathe fire until she's a teenager. So they would need to wait a couple of years. I mean, I realize she's a teenager at like 3 years old. The wardstone wouldn't be immediate if they could make one. Yeah. But we are told multiple times that runes work off the continent.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting. And I feel like...
Yeah.
So maybe it is a wardstone. I don't know.
Well, but the runes, I feel like we were hinted that the runes work when tied to the alloy off the continent. Right? Because the quartz-shaped disc that has the rune doesn't protect Violet from being sunburned, but the same rune on her dagger does.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. All right, so probably somewhere in Peromil, but perhaps off with the Irids across the Emerald Sea.
Yeah.
I like that one better. I like the Irids on the Emerald Sea better, personally.
I like somewhere we've never been better. Like,
yeah.
Frankly, the Isles, kind of a dud in terms of places to be.
Yeah, like it has to be somewhere where he wouldn't be putting anyone in danger, but where he could still stay alive. And where dragons and Venin can both like coexist.
Well, this is an interesting point as well. I totally think he's like a man with a plan right now. Like, I do not think he's going into hiding. I think he's like acting on shit.
I think he's acting on shit, but I think he might be acting on shit from a distance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think he's desperately trying to not hurt anyone. But there's so little of his soul left. I don't know.
Yeah. I also think there is a world. I'm not pro this world necessarily. So my notes on this were, I didn't even read any of my notes. I think he went and found Naolin, if he didn't already. Like,
I think Naolin has just always been in Orisha.
In my head. Well, then how was he inside the Orisian wards if he's Venin?
Okay, so I think he left when the Orisian wards went up. Yeah, good point.
I think if Naolin is Venin, I like to think he went and found Naolin and kind of this like faction of Venin that have been fighting from the inside. I also think he could also just be in the Navarian wards because...
Oh, because they're so fucked?
That those allow Venin and that Venin are hiding out within there. The challenge there is the higher ups who are Venin within it would know that he's there.
Right, because they can sense him.
Yeah. But like, I also feel like we can't rule out Navarre as a possibility.
I guess that's true. I guess that is true. We don't know how far that sensing goes, right?
We do not.
And Jack also says that they can sense each other so that a sage can claim them, but Xaden's been claimed. Right, so maybe it only lasts for that long. I would argue that Bodhi or the brother has also been claimed, probably by Berwyn.
Yeah. It's bad that I just like wish that they were gone for a really long time and that Andarna messed with time so that he could like climb the ranks and just like go undetected. That would be the ideal scenario.
Like years? You think they were gone for years?
I don't know what it takes to climb the ranks.
Yeah, maybe if it takes just to kill Berwyn,
he's more powerful than the majority of them, I would assume. He literally darkened the entire region.
We actually get a moment. I thought this was an interesting moment where he says he shoves Theophany to the ground regardless of her rank. Yeah. So it's kind of like a very Tairn moment, but B, a Xaden conforming to this structure in the Venin hierarchy, which I thought was kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
But like Xaden being kind of like not a good little foot soldier, but like he's acknowledging that this rank exists.
He's like, I am messing with the rank.
Yeah.
But he does immediately, like, he is no longer a friend to the Venin, even though he is one. Like, he knocks out Berwin.
Yeah.
He knocks down Theophany, and then she gets killed. So he was immediately like, F you guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things. I don't think he's just off with the Venin and like in the Venin now.
Yeah.
I also don't think he's been captured and tortured by the Venin. There's absolutely nothing to indicate that that has happened at all. He's very much in control at the end of Onyx Storm.
Yeah.
So I don't think either of those things are valid. Don't know where he is though. But probably not the Isles.
Probably not the Isles.
Probably not the Barrens. Maybe Peromial. Maybe
Peromial. Maybe Navarre. Maybe the Emerald Sea.
Maybe the Emerald Sea. Yeah, maybe they're just on a boat. No, I don't think so. But I like the Emerald Sea piracy line and Dane being with them. I like all that.
Yeah.
I like all that.
Yeah.
Did Violet say that? Yeah, Violet said that in Tales and Tomes. So Xaden heard the line about the Emerald Sea piracy. So like if Xaden was like, I have to go across the Emerald Sea, then he would bring Dane.
She says it to him. She's like, you don't remember this because you were too focused on piracy in the Emerald Sea. And he was like, it's a very important moment in history.
And I was like, this is going to come back in a big way. Yeah. No, I agree.
All
right.
I
think that's it. I think that's it. All right. Precog corner. Wow. We have concluded our deep dives on Onyx Storm. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like we've solved anything?
I feel like, and I've told Abby this already, so maybe like drop in the comments if you think this is a good idea. I feel like we need to do like theory recaps to like reconcile everything that we have talked about because we have taken some twists and turns.
Okay, I feel like there's some things that I feel like we've gotten right and I feel confident on. I'm having a hard time remembering them now, but Naolin being a Venin, I feel good about. Irids gifting their powers, I feel good about. Violet making the people around her stronger, I feel good about. I feel pretty good about a secret Irid den on the continent. It doesn't have to be at Tyrandor, but I feel like that's possible.
I feel good about Irids having been on the continent this whole time.
Yeah. And I feel very good about everything we've said about the gods. That feels pretty good. As a little theory recap corner, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel bad about anything we've said. I just think we have, like, for specific topics, like Naolin, like Brennan, like Talia and Fen and Lilith and Asher, I feel like some unification might be warranted.
Yeah, as long as it's not just, I mean, let us know in the comments if you want us to do that. My concern is that we're just going to be rehashing the same thing you guys have already heard. But, like, if you want us to do episodes that are just covering... Yeah, but those like we could do one on runes, we could do one on Brennan and Naolin, we could do one on
just recaps.
Yeah, just kind of recaps of like here's where we are. Here's where we are. Yeah, like little 40-minute episodes.
Right. Yeah.
We're happy to do it.
Let us know.
Let us know if that's something you're interested in.
Or if you'd hate it, let us know too, because that would save us a lot of time. Okay. Should we go to Precog Corner? Final Precog Corner.
I did it first last time, so do you want to do it first this time?
Sure. I am again choosing between two.
Just read them both.
They're both kind of nothings. I feel like we got the crazy out of the way with the time manipulation and all that stuff. Okay. So we get an epigraph that I think is interesting in and of itself, and also interesting because we have not seen anything really come of it yet. Chapter 59. The epigraph is, "It was not without risk that the first dragons bonded humans, for though they clearly hold the power, their bonded riders made them the one thing they could not tolerate, vulnerable. Many dragons suffered the loss of their bonded riders in the name of self-preservation." So when I read this, I think, does this mean that dragons have killed their riders in the name of self-preservation? Many dragons suffered the loss of their bonded riders in the name of self-preservation.
Or just like let them die.
I
mean, we see that all the time, right? Like there's someone fell out of their saddle after threshing. And Violet falls off her saddle after threshing, but Tairn catches her, right? But this girl's dragon didn't catch her. She let her fall.
Yeah. And so totally, there are definitely dragons that have made decisions after bonding, like, oh, this is no longer good for me, and does not bother saving their rider. it made me think about Naolin. So when Naolin saved Brennan, let's talk a little bit about how Tairn speaks about Naolin, right? First of all, he doesn't.
We do not speak of the one who came before.
We do not speak of the one who came before. He does mention at one point, like, I will not lose another rider who doesn't understand their limits. I still think that Naolin turned 100%. And I recognize this theory could negate a bunch of stuff we've already been told. I'm wondering whether Naolin, after turning, could have asked Tairn to kill him. Or could Tairn have decided that he needed to kill Naolin after Naolin turned? And that is why Sigale hates Brennan. Naolin turned to save him, and then Tairn was either forced to by Naolin or himself end his rider in the name of self-preservation. That, to me, would explain such a deep unwillingness to talk about him. I mean, obviously the Venin thing does too, but either way, he can't have died. Like, if he just died, Tairn would just say.
Well, it's interesting too, because someone commented on our video, and I was going to bring this up maybe in a mailbag, but I'll bring it up now. It's not, if our theory holds that Naolin channeled because Tairn was at like the edge of his power.
Yeah.
Naolin not only turned to save Brennan's life, but to save Tairn's life as well, right?
Yeah.
So if that happened, and then Tairn has to kill him, first of all, not with Dragonfire.
Not with Dragonfire.
Right? So what did he do? Did he eat him? I don't know. Tail. I guess the tail.
The tail. It doesn't really negate that much, right? Because Naolin still could have turned, still could have been the initiate that Xaden knew hated his sage. It just means, like, even
I guess Tairn doesn't have to have killed him immediately.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have happened during those 5 years.
Yeah.
Naolin would either have to be exactly what we've said, like actively fighting the Venin, or dead, like wanted to die, if this were the scenario he were pushed to. Like, he needed to channel to save Brennan. He needed to channel to avoid killing Tairn with his, like, final act, basically. And so I'm sure he hated himself. I'm sure he was right in Xaden's camp, where he was just like, I cannot stand what I have become.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know if Xaden's like progression was a typical progression, if it was a slower progression. Like, we don't know if Xaden had channeled so deeply at Basgiath as he did at Drathis, if he would have immediately gone to Aesum, right? Like, we just don't know. So we don't know, like, how powerful, like, Naolin was as a Venin, if he was a Venin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we knew he was a really powerful rider, for sure.
Right. We know that.
Yeah, from Kaori. 1. And then 2 is less interesting. I don't know. I won't discredit myself before we react to it. Theophany has a line that we've talked about and we know and we love that implies that Violet doesn't have a balance, basically. Once a century or so, we get a chance to skew the scales in our favor, and I will prove myself to him this time. I assumed, that this meant that Violet was an opportunity to tip the balance, and that it meant Violet really had no balance. That's still definitely possible. But she doesn't use the words tip the balance, she uses the words skew the scales. And Violet has an Irid. And so is this a once in a century chance? Is the use of the word scales actually about getting an Irid?
Maybe.
Dunno.
And is that why they want to keep Violet alive? Because they're worried that killing Violet would kill Andarna? I mean, Theophany says she will kill Violet. She's like, I can wait for another.
And could she wait for another Irid? Like, are the Irids more active and around than we think? I don't know. They say they don't bond.
Yeah.
But I don't know where else the Venin are spending their time.
Across the Emerald Sea.
It's the Emerald Sea, potentially. Okay, you go.
All right. This was originally going to be one of my corrections on Mission social media, and then I thought it was really good, and I thought it deserved Precog Corner instead. And I'm not sure there's a so what or it goes anywhere, but I think it's really interesting. I think we should talk about it. We get a quote from Auric on Hedotus about the true name of the continent. And he says, it's Amaryllis, according to ancient royal records, though I believe Paromish records call it Amalekis. The only thing our kingdoms ever agreed on was calling it the continent after the Great War. So we got a comment from a listener on Spotify. Her name's Anna. Regarding landmasses equals gods. This was a precog theory we had in another episode. The continent could both be Amari and Malek. Auric says that Navarians would have called it Amaryllis. Violet links Amaryllis to Amari, and that Paromish would have called it Amalekis. So we readers can link Amalekis to Malek. And Rebecca has said in interviews that the land topography impacts magic specifically. So I thought that was interesting. I totally did not pick up on the idea
No, nor did I.
of Amalekis being tied to Malek, because it's not a perfect, like, it's not Amalek, it's Amelekis.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with Amaryllis. Like, it's Amara. It's not Amari. This is why I was talking about etymology earlier in the episode. I thought that was an interesting idea. And then I took it a little further and I was like, okay, but what if it's actually, we know that Rebecca likes to do this thing where we think it's 6, but then it's actually 7, right? She did that with the Irids. What if it's actually that Amari and Malek are the same god? And it's 2 different names from the same god, a la Greco-Roman gods, right? So we have Jupiter and we have Ares, all those other stuff. I can't really remember my Greek and Roman mythology. What if they're the same god? And that means that, as we talked about, if my theory holds true that Violet is now dedicated to Malek, she's actually dedicated to Amari, who is the queen of the gods, and therefore she is like subject to so much power. Like she could have so much power. I don't know. Obviously, it's a Precog corner theory. It's kind of loose, but I really liked that train of thought. I really like that line of reasoning, so I wanted to bring it up.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it a lot too. I guess with the 6 and the 7, though, this is going from 6 to 5.
This is 6 to 5. This is flipping it on its head. Exactly. Yeah. This is the reverse of that trope. And if you think about it, we've talked about how Malek is really less of a Hades figure and more of a St. Peter at the gates figure, right? Like, he is
him as good.
Right. And like, death is the one, right? Death is the one that comes for us all. It's the one that you cannot avoid. Wouldn't it make sense for that deity to be kind of above all others, right? Yeah. Doesn't that make sense if he's really like the guardian for heaven? And if you think of, like in Catholicism, God being tied to heaven. Yeah. Right? Like, doesn't that make some sense? I think. Yeah. We're getting into like theology here, which I'm not very good with, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in Catholicism, and I think in LDS, I guess there is Satan, but like death does not guarantee Satan, right? It's like death could be God or Satan. Death could be heaven or hell.
Yeah. And that's what Malek is, right? Malek like weighs he tips the scales. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. Malek as, well, they never say that he's tied to the balance, but like that is a typical like mythology, right? Like you weigh your good deeds against, I forget exactly what it is. Someone has scales, and like if your good outweighs your bad, then you go to the good place, and if not, you go to the bad place. Is this ringing a bell? Am I making this up?
I think it's Greek.
Yeah, it might be Greek.
I don't know.
We just watched Hercules, right?
And we did just watch Hercules.
There's no scales in Hercules.
There's no scales. I do really like Violet being dedicated to Malek. Like, because I, as you know, feel so adamantly that he is the other who curries her favor.
I think you've proven it without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. Like, I think it's Malek. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone go listen to that, because that is what we are basing our entire.
Yeah. I think that was Gods and what episode was that?
I feel like it was Gods and Isles.
I think it was Gods and Isles. But it might have been Venin. Whatever, just listen to all of them.
Just listen to all of them. Yeah. Okay. I like it.
Yeah. I really like it. And I hope that's what happened, because I just don't think that she gets much benefit out of being fully dedicated to Dune.
Yeah. I think Xaden does. If you believe that Theophany turned not Venin before she died, I think Xaden stands a lot to gain from being dedicated to Dune.
You think if Xaden is dedicated to Dune, because then he can be undedicated, or because that can cure him?
Because
just by being dedicated can cure him.
Correct.
Oh, intriguing.
Because I mean, the way that we interpreted what happened with Theophany is she was dedicated to Dune. She turned her back on Dune. She became Venin, and then she was forced to reconcile with that by returning to Temple, and her return to Temple was being stabbed with the stone from the Temple, and that severed her connection to the source.
Yeah.
So obviously, if we can find a way that can happen to Xaden where he doesn't die, that would be ideal.
I mean, it would be nice if he was already dedicated. People have pondered that he's dedicated to Loisan because of the gold in his eyes.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough to go on.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I like the thought, though, a lot. I've seen it around.
Well, it makes the ending pretty easy. You just find a temple of Loisan. Oh, but you gotta not kill him, too. Oh, no, but Violet's dedicated to Malek, so it's fine. It's not a problem.
Violet will get him back. It's okay. They will literally meet Malek.
I mean,
They are going to meet
where we're
Malek.
going. Maybe they already did.
Like, this has been since like episode 3. We are like, they are meeting Malek.
They're meeting
It's
Malek
happening.
together.
Yeah, it's happening.
Literally.
Yep.
Literally. All right.
Cool.
Reading corner?
Yes. I have no new information here. We've recorded these in the same day, so just nobody come for me.
Still not
I
reading.
am in a deep, dark work hole. I'm not currently reading anything, and it's making me very sad, so I'm about to start the Shepherd King duology. I'm going to start it. Mark my words.
All right. Switching gears entirely here. I finished Empire of Storms yesterday.
Exciting.
Okay.
Do you have to spoiler alert?
I'm going to try not to spoiler alert, but if you truly don't want anything for Throne of Glass spoiled, I think you should probably stop listening. Love you, bye. We'll catch up with you another time. But I'm going to try very hard to not spoil anything. I don't think I need to spoil anything. As you know, I believe in reading books in the way that they were published, right? So when this book came out, there was no other book to do the tandem reading with, right? So I read this book. I finished Empire of Storms last night, cried. Derek was like, what is wrong with you? I was crying many, many, many times. Many, 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 many times.
Yep.
The idea that I now have to read an entire book that does not pick up on that story at all makes my fucking blood boil. I am so mad that I have to do this. We'll see how it goes. I know that I have friends who really like that one. So like, I think it'll be okay. But yes, the idea that I now have to read an entire book with no conclusion to the iconic line muttered by a man whose name I will not say.
Yeah.
Very upset about that. Who the fuck does she think she is? Like, honestly. And if I had been reading this book in real time and I had to wait a year for a book that did not.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I texted Gabby the same thing after that happened. I was like, if I were reading this as it were published, I would have lost my mind. Like, actually lost my mind when I opened that book and the answer to that question was not in it. Absolutely horrible.
And like, did people know? Did people know that that entire book was just like a different thing? I don't know. Bold choice. I hope the book's good. I'm still like looking forward to it. I have a friend who said it's very good. Ironically, her name is Maeve, but
I was in the place that you were in. I would say like the first few chapters, I definitely had to like grin and bear it and like push through it, but it was a good book. I didn't like feel that loss when I was like, you know, a third halfway through it.
Some part of me is actually almost happy for it because as I mentioned, I'm like, I kind of need a break. Like, I'm so deep in this story. I'm like losing. There's like a lot going on. There's like a lot going on, and I'm not even sure she's keeping track of everything that's going on, if I can be honest. Like, I don't think the word was mentioned once in Empire Storms. Like, I think she dropped it like 3 books ago.
Yeah. It also doesn't jump POVs the way that the rest of the series does, and so it's just like a nice palate cleanser. It's like pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, I mean that's nice. It's exhausting a little bit. Like it's like, oh, now we're talking to Manon. Now we're talking to Elise.
My issue was like remembering what the hell last happened.
Yeah, it's
because like I would finish a chapter and be like, I want to know what's happening in this storyline, and then I would have to jump to 2 others before I came back to that one. And I'm like, I don't even remember what we were doing here, to be honest.
And I've talked to you about this. Like, do like her stories and I like her characters, but I think she writes kind of clickbaity in that sense, where it's just like, you think this thing is going to happen. Just kidding. We're switching to another POV chapter. And I'm like, can we just be adults here and just let that thing happen? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think she got a lot. Well, but Akatar, she only wrote from one POV. And I think same with, oh no, Crescent City's multiple POVs. I think the best use of that was Silver Flames. When she just had 2 POVs, I think that was the best way to do it.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Anyway, I've been reading way too much Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah, to do them all in a row is definitely a lot. I definitely didn't do that. So
yeah. It's okay. I am looking forward to like the rereads where I can like actually dive into it versus now where I'm just like, give it to me.
Yeah, like trying to understand what's happening.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
That was it, guys. That was our deep dive on Onyx Storm. As we mentioned, probably not the last we'll talk about Onyx Storm, but our last deep dive in this format, I think.
Indeed.
But we'll definitely do a mailbag. We'll do some other fun ones. We might do these theory recaps if you guys are interested. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was good.
Thanks for coming along on the ride.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
We are Dragons in the Details pod on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We are dragonsinthedetailspod@gmail.com. We also have a Discord, as we mentioned at the top of the episode. That is the Dragons in the Details server. The link is in our Instagram and TikTok bios.
Just reach out to us. We love to hear
Oh,
from you. I'm game to do a mailbag or two more if we get
Yeah.
enough engagement. I definitely have a running mailbag list that we've not
Yeah, I do
addressed
too.
also. So
I
we
do
really
too.
enjoy hearing from you. It's awesome, and it also makes us think way harder about the things that we say.
Yeah, and we miss stuff. Like,
Yeah,
let us know.
come with
Like,
receipts when you call us out, though.
yeah. Do that. Yeah, that's
All
pretty
right.
much it. Thanks for coming on this journey with us, guys. We will be continuing it, I guess, in some form or another.
Yeah. Start your ACOTAR rereads now.
Start your ACOTAR rereads now if you haven't done it. I'm going to start mine very soon, as soon as I finish Throne of Glass,
Yeah.
which
I
I'm
have to
prepared to
start
be
mine.
emotionally devastated about, I guess.
I don't know if emotional devastation is necessarily how I would.
Would you
apply
say
it
Kingdom
seriously.
of Ash is... Did you feel worse after finishing Onyx Storm or Kingdom of...
Onyx Storm for sure.
Okay, great. Then we're going to be fine.
What?
Then we're going to be fine.
The Kingdom of Ash is the end of the series.
Yeah. All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.